All right, guys, we are alive. It is 2020. We had a little bit of a false start because you know why? It's different streaming on YouTube than it is on Twitch. Twitch, you just hit the button and it goes live. On YouTube, you have to hit go and then also another button on YouTube to hit go. So again, you don't do this for a year and you forget. Hopefully, the Browns won't have the same sort of hiccups technically as we just did, but nonetheless, guys, I want to say thank you for everybody for coming back. This is season 2 of the Brownie Pros Game pregame show. I'm your host at Mike Killy. We have my dad in the back. You can kind of see back there, and then we have young Maxwell Gamer here to my left. If you guys search on YouTube, you can find Maxwell Gamer's YouTube channel. He is an aspiring gamer. All right, we have our first guest of the season, and I think a lot of you probably know him. Pumps out a ton of Browns content, and I'm a huge fan, so I asked him to come and share some love with us on our show. Welcome, everyone, Quincy Carrier to the show.
Hey, how you guys doing? Nice to be on with you guys.
We are excited. I'm sure you're very excited as well. Quincy, let's just get right into it. Give me and give the audience what we should expect here in week 1 in Baltimore against the Ratbirds.
It's going to be, you would hope, a very competitive game. I think this should be a competitive game. I know all the narratives have been out, oh, well, one team has returned their coaching staff, the other team hasn't. But if you look deeper into that microscope and just not take that narrative at face value, you'll see that there are some changes going on in Baltimore that, you would assume would take longer than just this 14 padded practices to put in. So they're really not in that much of a different situation. You see that they only kept 2 tight ends this year. They drafted 2 wide receivers. That signals to me that there's going to be a massive change in how this offense looks. Not a massive enough change where they ain't going to run the ball. That's still going to happen, but a massive enough change where that's going to still be something that affects them. And I think it's honestly something that's going to affect every team. And if you saw the game on Thursday, I think these narratives have kind of been dragged a little bit too big for my liking about the whole, new head coach thing. So I'm not really buying into that as much. I think this should be a close game, unless the Browns just come out here flat, which I hope they don't do. I think there is a path for success in this game. You do have Jimmy Smith, and you do have Deshaun Elliott, and you do have what's his name, Patrick Queen, all out there in the Ravens defense. And outside of those guys, this Ravens defense is locked down. Like, let's be honest about it. But those 3 guys are huge question marks. Jimmy Smith doesn't even know if he's going to play. Had back spasms this morning. Deshaun Elliott's only played 4 games. Not used to taking a ton of snaps. Now he's going to be out there a ton. Patrick Queen, rookie linebacker. We know with rookie linebackers, they take a while to get their instincts right. They're going to be fooled on things. What do the Browns plan on running a lot this year? Play action football. So that might be something you can take advantage. The tight ends and the running backs out the backfield in the receiving game are going to be massive for this Cleveland Browns team. If they can hit those early on, they will be able to compete with this team and probably win this game, because we talk a lot about what Jarvis Landry did last year, or Nick Chubb, right? Because they put up the big eye-popping numbers and they're the stars. But the thing I felt like was the key to all that opening up was Ricky Seals-Jones, 3 receptions for 80-something yards early in that game, because then that made Baltimore be kind of afraid to stack the box as much, have them be more afraid and kind of be more timid against the run. Have them be more afraid of what Jarvis Landry can do down the field, so they don't worry about what he can do with the ball in his hands within 5 yards with Yak, and that's where Jarvis really took advantage of him. So those are where the Browns have the advantage. The way they unlock all those advantages is if they can get the ball going to their tight ends and the running backs out the backfield. Now, the good news for the Browns is that they're more equipped than ever before to do that. Like, quite honestly, last year we were at Ricky Seals-Jones at this game, right?
Right.
And Ricky Seals-Jones, and Farrell Brown. We were down to our last 2 tight ends already in week 4. Austin Hooper, Harrison Bryant, David Njoku's a 3rd option. I don't even know how many snaps he's going to get because Stephen Carlson's a better blocker than him for that 3rd tight end role. So you're much deeper at tight end. Your running back situation when it comes to receiving is much better, because now not only do you have Nick Chubb, who's underrated in that aspect, you have Kareem Hunt, who's very, very good and has looked very good throughout camp.
Right.
So you have more weapons there. The problem for the Browns is Baltimore is much better against the run this year.
Yeah.
Calais Campbell, Brandon Williams back. He didn't play last year. Like Derek Wolfe. All three of those guys are massive game changers that did not play last year when Nick Chubb had his big game. So that's going to be a big factor, right? The Browns can't just come in here and expect to run power up the middle and move this Baltimore defensive line. These are three dudes who have never been pushed around in their life. I don't think it's going to start today.
Right.
So you're going to have to be able to move the ball with the tight ends, with the running backs in the passing game. Baker's going to have to get it started early in order for this team to open things up a little bit more, because that's where the weakness is, and that's where you can open up everything else. So if you're a Browns fan, look for the tight ends and the running backs to get open early. That's going to be your best hope in being able to move the ball against this defense, because again, that front seven, well, that interior three especially, dominant. They're going to be very good this year. And they're going to be much better at that than they were last year. So stretch runs, all that stuff, that's not going to work off the back. So you unless you fool them off play action or something like that. So you gotta get them off their toes, because as at their base, we can't really do much against that. You gotta kind of attack their weaknesses.
What is your score prediction of the game?
I'm gonna go 28. Yeah, 28-21. I think the Browns are gonna win this one. I think all touchdowns. I don't. You don't get me started on the kicker. I'm not going to do it. I'm gonna let it go. People get mad when I talk about the kicker. I'm not a big fan of the kicker. But I think it's going to be all touchdowns. The Browns can't really be settling for field goals this week. It's.
What do you think about the fancy calling the plays?
I've heard a lot of things being made of that, right? And I think it's a lot of like, well, Hugh sucked at calling the plays, and then Freddie was Freddie Kitchens, and then he called plays. These were all issues because of the people involved. But I don't think inherently a head coach calling plays is an issue. It's only an issue when it's clear it becomes an issue. So with Kevin Stefanski calling the plays, I'm not going to worry about it until it becomes obvious that I have to worry about it, until they're doing stupid stuff like Hugh Jackson did, where, it's Detroit at the end of the second half and he's calling like a QB sneak with no timeouts on like the 5-yard line to try to score a quick touchdown. That's when I'm going to start to worry about who's calling the plays. There are a lot of teams, a lot of situations in the NFL. We don't know who calls the plays. Eric Bieniemy in Kansas City. It's been a debate for the last 2 years. Who's calling the plays in Kansas City? Nobody knows. Nobody cares. They won a Super Bowl. It doesn't matter that way. Mike McCarthy, the year they won the Super Bowl, took back play calling from his offensive coordinator, and they got better. So I don't think a head coach calling the plays is necessarily this like negative thing that we associate it with, because we've just given incompetent people the ability to call plays. And I think the one thing you can say about Kevin Stefanski throughout all of this stuff that he's dealt with throughout the offseason, I don't think he's incompetent. I don't think he would take responsibility that he could not handle. And if he couldn't handle it, he wouldn't delegate it otherwise. It just hasn't been the vibe that I got from him. Freddie Kitchens, Hugh Jackson, huge. I got to do it all vibe. I got to get my credit vibe. That's, right. Just from how they came off in press conferences. So I feel like I trust him more to make that decision than I trust the other two. And also, I don't feel like it's inherently a bad thing. So we'll see. If the play calling stinks today, then it's going to be a topic. But before they play football, I can't really judge if it's the right call or if I think it's going to be the right call.
And we ended up watching the Ravens game in Baltimore that was on the NFL Network last night. And one of the things that stuck out to me that was I forgot how annoyed I was at this last year, winning the coin toss and taking the ball, not deferring to the second half, was one thing that I remember just being really frustrating last year. Honestly, like they called a beautiful game. Offensively, we moved the ball. Nick Chubb was unstoppable last year, which again just struck me as hilarious that we were watching Nick Chubb run from 7-yard runs, 9-yard runs into the teens, breaking long runs, and we still didn't stick with him as our main weapon on offense and kept throwing with Baker over 35 times a game continuously moving forward. Do you see Stefanski learning from the statistics, the analytics that we all know about with Baker throwing over 35 times? And are we going to keep the damn ball on the ground with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt today?
It's interesting, right? Because I've actually come around on this, because like last year was so disappointing, and when you see it at the moment, you're like, man, I don't know what happened with Baker last year, right?
Mhm.
But once you look at this deeper, there are actual like things that if you look at, tell you exactly what happened with Baker Mayfield. And I don't even think it's necessarily he took a massive step back last year as a player. I think it was more he was just used the wrong way completely. Because if you look at Baker Mayfield, and we were talking about 35 pass attempts, I talked about this on my channel. Baker Mayfield, when he's under 35 or under with pass attempts, it's 10-6, 26 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. That's exactly the guy we got his rookie year.
Yep.
Like that's the guy who made Cleveland go wild, do all that. Like he went 5-3 at the end of that season. You multiply that by 2, that's exactly what he did. Even last year when he was under 35 pass attempts, with the exception of a couple games, like San Francisco was just an awful experience for everybody involved. But outside of that, he was exactly the guy we thought he was. Less interceptions, a lot of touchdowns, 10-6 record. That's what we thought Baker Mayfield was coming into that season.
Right.
And it's just they didn't use him correctly. They threw the ball like 40 times in a blowout against Miami, which tells you everything about where that offense is. Now, as far as and when Baker Mayfield was over 35 pass attempts, he was exactly the guy we were afraid of him being. 3-11, 23 touchdowns, 21 interceptions in less games. That's it was just atrocious stat line, quite honestly, in 14 games. So that kind of cleared things up to me how he's going to be used. Now, is Kevin Stefanski going to use him in the right way? It sure seems like that's the plan, right? It seems like with everything that Kevin Stefanski did in Minnesota, that the plan is to run the ball a lot more than they did last year with Kareem Hunt and with Nick Chubb. I said my goal during the offseason for the Browns should be 500, 500, and 500. You want to get 500 pass attempts with Baker Mayfield, stay under that number. 500 rushing attempts, lead the league, be close to Baltimore. In that number, Baltimore had like 583 last year. And then also you want to get, your 300 targets to both Jarvis and Odell, split up 150 each. That's what they normally get in a season. And then, you trickle down the rest to Austin Hooper, Harrison Bryant, whoever else, Kareem Hunt, Rashard Higgins. So that should be the plan for the Cleveland Browns. It looks like that's the plan. This team did not take a lot of snaps in shotgun during training camp. Most of the snaps under center, most of the snaps play action, a lot of runs. So I expect that to be the case. And with how they reinforced everything with the tight ends, I think they're going to run and have that be more of a focal point than they did last year. Make no mistake, Baker's going to be the most important part of this offense just because he's the quarterback. And for them to be able to run against a team like Baltimore, he has to do his job first. So make no mistake about that. But the running game is going to be more important. I think you're going to see a lot more of Kareem Hunt as a running back, just straight up, than I thought we were going to see when they hired Stefanski at the beginning.
Right.
Vince, going back to the question of who's calling the plays, I don't have an issue with him calling the plays. I think he will do a good job of it. What Mike and I observed also last night in watching that rerun of last year was, it comes down to the critical points of the game where the coach is being pulled 4 different ways, and yet he's still required to make a play call. They score a touchdown on Chubb's long run, and then they can't get a play called. They call a 2-point conversion call. They can't get it in time because I don't know if it was Freddie Kitchens' fault because he wasn't paying attention or whatever. But the confusion in the last 2 minutes of a ball game, trying to play, make the play calls as well as trying to coach the game, and yell at the refs and do this and do that. I just think that is a major distraction for a head coach to do, especially if he's doing it for the very first time, which is Stefanski's doing it as head coach and play caller. So I just, I hope the play calling goes great. I hope there's no confusion. And that'll be my last comment on that.
Well, there is one thing to be said, I would say, because our offensive coordinator is Alex Van Pelt. He has never been an offensive coordinator. Well, I guess, I'm sorry, for the 2009, he was the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach of the Bills in 2009. So, like 11 years ago, he's always just been a quarterbacks coach. So would you feel comfortable allowing a guy like Alex Pelt, who's only ever been a quarterback coach, the ability to play call. And this is the last one, and we'll get to Ristano coming in.
I mean, like, again, if Stefanski wants to call the plays and he's the most comfortable with calling the plays, you know, with the shortened offseason and everything, like, he's got to be the one who calls the plays. You know, you don't want somebody who has to, you know, the worst thing, you're talking about like confusion, but the worst thing for the Browns, honestly, that can happen with the play calling is if Alex Van Pelt needs to keep going back to the book to figure out what is the name of this concept that he actually wants them to radio in down to the field. Because then you're going to see the Browns panic, waste a lot of tight end, waste a lot of time, you know, trying to get these calls in. So that would be something I would be worried about more than Kevin Stefanski doing it. My thing with Kevin Stefanski, and you mentioned that with like Freddie Kitchens and him kind of just being confused there, is, yeah, if you put too much on your plate, like Freddie Kitchens did last year, where he's trying to call the plays, he's trying to also fight with the offensive coordinator, Tom Mackin, to like whatever offense they're running. And then, you know, you're also somebody who was a quarterback's coach from like a season ago. And then you're trying, like, this stuff's going to overwhelm you because he took on way too much. My thing with Kevin Stefanski is I have more faith that if he's going to call these plays, he has delegated enough of the head coaching responsibility throughout the staff, you know, in order to make sure that can happen. That's the problem with Freddie Kitchens last year. He didn't delegate enough. And I don't blame him as much because of that, because like he didn't have the staff to delegate. He had a lot of guys who were like first year from college, first year from here and there. So he didn't really have enough experience to delegate. That's not the case with Kevin Stefanski. He has enough experience to delegate these tasks, to have somebody be, you know, the fourth down, should we go or not? You know, should we take this extra point? Have those decisions made ahead of time so you're not trying to scramble everything together, get your brain together to make all of these decisions yourself. I trust that they have that. Now, if that looks like it's not the case, and this year, you know, it looks very confused at the beginning or at the end of this game in the last 2 minutes, then yeah, you got to talk about maybe he shouldn't call the plays. Maybe it's too much. But for right now, I have to trust throughout everything that he's done, it doesn't look like he's going to go about this in an incompetent way. And there's a very competent playbook on how to call these plays as a head coach without it being a problem. Tons of coaches have done it. Tons of first-year coaches have done it successfully. You know, nobody worries about Sean McVay's ability to keep his team, you know, normal on the sideline, or, you know, to keep everything in order. And he definitely calls the plays. He even reads the defense for his quarterback for up to 14 seconds. He does way more than people ask Kevin Stefanski or Freddie Kitchens to do. You know, it's all about the person. Are they going to be able to be competent? Are they going to be able to delegate these tasks throughout the staff efficiently enough? That's the big part, right? That's how you can tell if you got a good coach or not. That's how you kind of could tell it was a clown show with Freddie Kitchens last year, because he wasn't able to delegate those tasks. He wasn't able to do things competently. Like, I don't want to know what training camp will look this year with Freddie at the helm of it. It's not something I'm intrigued on finding out. So yeah, I do feel good about, I feel fine with Kevin Stefanski calling the plays. And, you know, with Van Pelt being an offensive coordinator only for 1 year, the results really weren't that great in Buffalo the 1 year. I think he had like a bottom 10 offense that year. So, you know, if Stefanski feels like this is the best move for the team, I trust that he's not making a selfish decision there.
Beautiful. Quincy Carrier, thank you so much for coming on. The wealth of knowledge. And I want to say I am really excited about their content for the rest of the year, as I always am. We're both going to be going live after the game, so you guys can check out us. You can check out Quincy as well for post-game reactions. And yeah, looking forward to doing a lot more collaboration with you this year, and hoping that the Browns give us a lot of really good, excellent content to talk about. Not sad things, happy things.
Yeah, let's hope. It's been a while.
All right, thanks, Quincy.
Thank you, Quincy.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
All right.
Hey,
Mr. Ristano. Mr.
What's going on?
Ristano's in the house.
Hi,
Hey,
how you
fellas.
doing?
How you guys making out?
Good.
We're doing good, Mike. We
That's fine.
got the old crew from last season, although my dad was at the game. streaming to several hundred people live, drinking our beers and having a good old time at 2-2. Hopefully we can go 1-0 this year. Give us your thoughts. And by the way, let me just introduce this man. This is the Lone Dog Podcast host, Mike Ristano. Also, you can get him on Twitter at Bonzo 1273. I got him listed right there. So anybody who's not following Mr. Ristano, please do. Good Browns content that he pumps out. Mike, tell us, what are your thoughts of the game? What should we be looking for, and give us a prediction?
So first and foremost, I'm hoping that my presence here today brings us the same luck that it did last year. So fingers crossed. Yeah, so this is one of those awkward years. I mean, I don't think I need to go into the uncertainty that we didn't really think that there was going to be a season, with COVID-19, and here we are. And I know, today for the Ravens, they have no fans in the stands. So if I look back to Thursday, even though there weren't that many fans in the stands, it's still, I mean, you could hear the noise. I mean, if they didn't tell you that there weren't, 30 plus in there, it was still loud. So
Remember we talked, Mike, last year about the noise level and how deafening it was.
Yeah.
At the end, when just before Chubb made that run, I had to put my fingers in my ears. It was they were banging and screaming. The decibel level was near 95. I'd never heard it that loud in the stadium. And then they jumped off sides, or they had a false start, which moved them back to the 12-yard line. And then Chubb did his miracle run, and the place was like a church. It was you could hear a pin drop in that stadium.
Yeah, so to your point, I think that this is a huge win for us. Not having to worry about, the home field advantage, essentially. And I know, earlier this morning they said Jimmy Smith had back spasms, so he might not go today, which, man, that would be
big. That'd be real big.
Yeah, absolutely. Another big win for us. But, when it coming down to predictions, I think that ultimately where we are today, we've got, if we go down the checklist, last year we all wanted Freddie to be the guy, and we know now, and we knew midway last year that he wasn't the guy. The wheels fell off, and here we are. I know we didn't have OTAs and mini camps, but the guys are still studying. I know it's a timing thing in terms of how much you're playing together on the field, but putting that aside, we've got a competent head coach now with a competent staff. I feel very good with Van Pelt, being in Baker's ear, all game long. And I mean, you look at the offense. We went out, we got Wills, we shored up the left side. I'm sure he'll struggle a little, but they'll keep somebody in to chip and help him out. But then you're talking about Batonio, Treader, all pro type of guys. Then you've got Teller, who I think with Callahan, I think that he'll be a viable option there. And then you go out and you get the Pro Bowl right tackle. So, I mean, there's no, except for the rookie, there's no question marks on that offensive line. And then, I mean, now you got OBJ. Still, you've got Jarvis. Now we added a Pro Bowler in Austin Hooper. Bryant looked great. We didn't even get to the backfield yet. Now we've got Chubb and we've got Hunt. So I guess the point that I'm trying to make is I think where we are now, it's a put up or shut up for 6. I mean, that's where we are. I mean, they've got the pieces. And I know if you look at the defensive side of the ball, we're missing Greedy today. And it's more of a global view, but to break it back down into today, you're missing Greedy, but I don't think you miss much because I think Mitchell's a ball hound, and I think that he'll be just fine. Defensive line solid. Our secondary is solid. The linebackers are where we're a little weak. But again, I go back to the offensive side of the ball. As long as Baker is the guy that we thought he was when we drafted him, this offense is going to score points. And I think that they overcome the weakness in the middle of the defense. But again, I think it all comes down to what do we have in Baker, and that's where I'm fitting this in at this point. I don't know what you're thinking.
No, I mean, I think the exciting thing about it is, talking to a friend of mine who was a big Vikings fan about Stefanski, about his offense, and I think one of the things that he was mentioning that kind of stood out to me was that Stefanski's going to call a game that there's going to be a lot of short passes. There's going to be, and Mike, do you have the audio on your side, by the way?
Yes.
Okay, just turn it down a little bit. We got a little bit of an echo going. We got Stefanski going, and he's going to call out of short passes to the point last year where they actually had to like Cousins had to apologize to his wide receivers for not throwing to them. So we've got a very conservative offense, right? That should be coming out here. And I think that's going to play well because we just talked to Quincy and he was kind of going through those stats of Baker throwing over 35 times, not being successful, Baker throwing under 35 times, being like a 10-6 kind of guy, which I think we'd all be perfectly happy at 10-6. I think more like 11-5 this year. If we get off to a good start though, if we win this game, we've got two very winnable games with Cincinnati and Washington, which could be freaking scary if we're 3-0, right? Yeah. But long story short, I think that this is going to be a run-heavy team. We're going to do a lot of 2 tight end sets. We're going to be very heavy going into this game. And I think I think the plan is, I think what Stefanski's looking to do is we're going to wear him out. We're going to wear him out with Nick Chubb and with Kareem Hunt, and we're going to beat him up offense. Like you were saying, the offensive line is there, right? So we got Conklin in there. Will's the new guy who I think is going to be exceptional. We really do, there's no excuses anymore. And I think one of the things that Quincy was bringing up a moment ago was that we didn't use Baker correctly. And I agree with you. And I think that looking at the offense last year, there was a lot of 5 and 7 step drops and wait for our exciting wide receivers to get open, like OBJ and Jarvis. The problem with that is, if you don't give him enough time, Baker can't see over everybody, right? He's not 6'6". He's not Testaverde, right? So he's not going to be able to do that. We have to run very short 3-step drop type passes, very with purpose on each throw, do a lot of play action, and just beat them up with screen passes to Chubb and Hunt, and let our running backs do the work for us. Let the running backs. That's what Baltimore does, by the way. They run the ball, and then you get lulled to sleep, and then Mark Andrews or Marquise Brown are going to beat you over the top. That's how they win games, right? So I'm really excited about this one, though. I think there's so many storylines. Maxwell, what are you most excited about today? What's your take on the game?
I'm very excited because I think we're going to score like 30-2.
30-2.
Do you think their only points are gonna come from a safety?
Yes.
All right.
You are the God here.
I like it. If we win to 30-2, I will be ecstatic. Dad, what is your prediction for the game?
My prediction is very similar to Quincy. I think it's going to be like 24-21, 27-24. We have to score points. As I think about baseball. And a team that gets off to a bad start, the other team scores first. Well, you got to look at it. No team ever wins a game at 0. So you have to score points to win a game.
We know it.
So the more points, obviously, the better. Going back to the play calling, one point we didn't talk about with Quincy, and I don't mean to drag this on, but last year Freddie scripted out the first series of plays and did very well. If you looked at our analytics, we drove the ball down. We scored a number of times. Maybe not it was a touchdown, but we were organized. We knew what we were doing. We were confident. And then remember last year when Moncton came out with his negative comments about how chaotic it was on the sidelines, and he pointed out that Freddie would get away from the game plan after he scripted out the first series, and he would start ad-libbing with his play calling. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. I'm hoping Stefanski learns from that, and that we continue with the game plan. We don't fly by the seat of our pants if he's calling the plays. Whereas an offense coordinator wouldn't do that. An offensive coordinator, that's his only job, is to call those plays according to what just happened on the last play, according to what who's in the game, the personnel, according to how Baker's throwing the ball, all those things. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I hope it's a big change from last year. I'm very optimistic. I'll be disappointed if we lose. I'll be disappointed if it's a close game and we lose. I'll be really disappointed if we get blown out. Kansas City looked really good the other night. I mean, they look like the Super Bowl champs. We're not in their league yet, but we got a whole season to get better. And hopefully, if we're in those playoffs at the end, we'll be good enough to give Kansas City a run for their money.
Yeah, I agree. And I think just to go a step back to what you were talking about, Mike, I think a big part of this game today, when you take away Lamar and Ingram, and I'm sure Dobbins is going to get some carries today as well. But what I'm really looking to is, can we hang with Mark Andrews? Because I think that is really going to be a big part of what happens today. I think if we can, and I don't think you could ever neutralize a guy like that, but I think if you can keep him to 5 catches for 50 yards or 60 yards, I think that at the end of the day, we if we can accomplish that, we come out on top. I'm cautiously optimistic. I summoned the GOAT today. So we get a big running day.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
I totally revamped the game day wardrobe. I went back and forth with it because I'm not gonna lie, I liked last year's wardrobe, but I had a, even down to, I eliminated the Baker Mayfield socks and I have the OBJ orange socks on to go with the orange shorts. But I'll post a picture on Twitter in a little bit. But I'm looking 28-24, 28-21. I think it's OBJ's coming out party. I think Landry has a big day. I think Hooper sets up a lot of it, and obviously the run's going to set up the majority of everything. But I feel like getting that guy in Hooper, he's going to open up the passing game, and I think you're going to see a healthy OBJ that we all hoped and wished that we saw last year. I just don't see, if that offensive line holds up, I do not see how. I'll be frank. I don't see how any defense can hold us under 20, 21 points a game. I just don't see it. And if that's the case and we can't score that many points, then we have bigger issues and we're scratching our head, because that means maybe Baker didn't have a good day or et cetera. But that's where I'm going. 28-21, 28-24-ish us. And man, I hope that's the case at the end of the day, or I should say by 4 o'clock.
I think my predictions. I asked in chat. A lot of people are giving predictions. I like Gary Washington's 30-27. I think it's gonna be close. Mario has 28-24. Chad Coy has 35-21. A lot of people are saying Browns. Obviously, we're a slightly biased channel, but I think I agree with everything you're saying on offense. I think that bringing in Kevin Stefanski, we're going from a dude who might be qualified to be a cashier at the dollar store to he's not Harvard. What is he? Princeton? Ivy League guy in Stefanski. So we're going from IQ here to IQ here. And I think he's going to do some smart play calling. Our offense is what it is. I mean, it's great. On defense, though, I think looking back, last year, nose tackle Lawrence had a huge game. And I think this year you're going to see a lot. Larry Ogunjobi is going to have a big game today. Watch for Larry Ogunjobi went freaking nuts this offseason with his workouts. He's looking like a stud.
Yeah,
he wants to get paid. Larry Ogunjobi's going to have a big day. I expect good things for him, from Olivier Vernon. We didn't have Denzel at Baltimore last year. I expect Denzel to do okay. I'm just very, very excited to see all the things that go on today. And I do predict the Browns win. I think the Browns are going to come out and shock the world. I think that the line that I was looking at, well, we're a dog by 7.5 points.
Yep.
Some websites I was looking at are saying they're going to win 35. The Baltimore's going to win 35-10. It's not. I think people are they're still looking at the old Browns and old losing Browns stuff as their way to do some predictions. Last thing, really quick, I did see that the last time we won an opening game was in 2004. And it was against the Ravens, after the Ravens had lost the previous season to the Titans in the playoffs.
There's fate for you.
We have history on our side for this game. And if we come out the gate with a win, I think the world will be raining orange and brown, although it'd be a little gross, but it would. I think the world would be happy if we win this game.
And the great thing was we don't have to wait a week. If we win this game, we don't have to
Bam.
wait a week. We're right out of the box again on Thursday night. We're gonna watch on probably tape delay the Cincinnati game against the Chargers. We'll see how Burrow does in his first professional game. I expect him to do halfway decent. He's a real talent. And it'll be really interesting if we beat Baltimore today, and then we come out at home against Cincinnati against a rookie quarterback.
What I find funny too, and to go back to what you were saying, Mike, about people think it's the same old Browns, and then this sort of ties into what you were just talking about, Dan, is that you look at I see all the predictions that come through, but this one stuck with me, and it was Nate Burleson, and Nate Burleson believes that the Bengals are a playoff team. He had the Bengals, the Steelers, and the Ravens in the playoffs, and he had us in the basement of the division. So that's
absolutely the Bengals are still the worst team in the league from last year. Yes, they can win. They can win 6 games. I think they can win 6 games. But I think we're moving forward. The Steelers, Roethlisberger might not even play, and if he does, he'd be probably better off if they just played Duck Hodges at this point. The Steelers are lacking star power. They're lacking. I think they're just a fatigued team. They're starting to trickle down. Cincinnati's going to stay in the basement for a little while, and this game today is going to determine the fate of the AFC North. Because you got the 2 powerhouse team, the up-and-coming Browns versus the consistent, year in and year out Ravens. Yep. So this is the game I think to watch in the NFL.
And you just said it too. What we need is what you just said, and what the Ravens have had, unfortunately, for how many years now, is that consistency. And I man, I don't know how many times we've said, oh, this coach, I think we're gonna have it, and this quarterback, and this coach, whatever. If this ain't it, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, that's the absolute truth. I mean, they're looking at our team. I'm looking at the depth chart right now. With going through, obviously we got Jarvis, we got Odell, we got Kareem Hunt, we got Nick Chubb, we got Rashard Higgins. A healthy Higgins, Odell, and Jarvis with Kareem Hunt, Austin Hooper, and a revitalized offensive line with Wills, with Wyatt Teller, J.C. Treader, Wyatt Teller, Virginia Tech kid, right? Jack Conklin. We have a team, guys. This is the most talented Browns team that has been on the field in my lifetime. In 40 years on this earth, going back even to the 86, 87, 88, 89 teams, this is the most complete on both sides of the ball. Yes, we have a little bit of, some question marks around linebacker. Yeah, with Greedy Williams out and not getting those reps in, not being able to develop. Yes, we got a couple question marks in the defensive backfield, but I think is T Mitch back, by the way? Do we know that he's playing today?
I believe he is. Yes, I believe he's starting.
And you know what? That's fine. I mean,
That's fine. Yeah.
To be honest, like T Mitch at this point is probably going to give us as good a look as Greedy would anyway. With Carl Joseph out there, some veterans, and we've got the right team. This is it. If this coach can call the plays,
I think one of the keys is going to be the how well we do in the red zone.
Yeah.
How many times did we screw up the red zone last year? We got down there, we just couldn't get it in the end zone. Hopefully, with Stefanski calling the plays, having two really star power running backs, that we can just run the ball into the end zone as opposed to having to come up with these trick plays and handoffs and double reverses and whatnot. I mean, you're in the red zone, you should be able to score. Let's hope we get touchdowns today and not field goals.
I agree. And you know what, guys? My guy to watch today, and it goes both sides of the ball, special teams. For me, is Taki. I want to see the jump that he made from last year. He looked good in camp. I everything I've read, they were all positive. So I think that if he could be that guy, and it, Mac Wilson's out, and that's not great. But I mean, if we're honest, I mean, he didn't set the world on fire last year, so we don't know what we were going to get this year either.
Fair.
Yeah, but it seems to me the progression of Taki seems to be on an upward curve, and they like what they see, and I'm interested to see what his game looks like today, because I mean, that could be a huge key. I mean, if he turns out to be that guy, man, the middle's not as weak as we thought it might have been.
You know what? I don't know enough about B.J. Goodson.
Yep.
Malcolm Smith, we know a lot about, but is he old Malcolm Smith or is he old Malcolm Smith?
Right.
Tay Davis, I don't know a lot about either. Hopefully Jacob Phillips, we can get excited about him being in there, young guy. Looking back at the game last year, we didn't see a whole lot with Mac Wilson anyway, right? So it was like it wasn't really the linebackers that were doing it last year. It was the front four, and then honestly, like who was it that had the huge game? Jermaine Whitehead had a giant game. Too bad that he popped off, later against Denver. But man, I mean, he was the player of the game on defense. He solidified that game with that interception at the end of the game.
And the other thing was, Mike and I watched the game again last night to refresh our memories, and it was clear from the beginning all the way up to the end. Myles Garrett did not play a factor in that game whatsoever.
Yeah, at all.
He did. Whatever they did to him, double team, chipping. He was tired. He had his hands on his hips about halfway through because he goes 120 miles an hour on every play, and he wasn't in the backfield. He didn't put pressure. He didn't stop the run. He was just a non-factor. So if he has a big game today, and I assume the same left tackle is out there for Baltimore, he's got to find a way to get in there and make an impact. And if he does, that'll be great for the defense.
Yeah, healthy Vernon on the other side too. So
Yeah.
They should contain and wreak some havoc, but who knows? We'll see.
All right, Mike. Thank you very much, my friend. I appreciate it. We will be tweeting and chatting and texting, I'm sure, throughout the game. I want to say thank you very much. You guys know where to find him, at Bonzo1273 on Twitter. My good friend Mike Restano, thank you very much for joining us, buddy.
See you, Mike.
Mike, Dan, thank you very much.
All right, bye-bye.
Go Browns.
Go Browns.
Brownies.
All right, next guest up, we have Mr. Steve Sullivan. who will be joining us here in a moment. Steve.
There we go.
There he is.
All right, Steve, bear with me for a second, guys. This is a first for the Brownie Post Game YouTube channel. We are going into enemy territory by bringing in Steve Sullivan. He is he's Ravens fan, Steve. A good friend of my dad's. Actually invited my dad to the game last year. In Baltimore, Ravens season ticket holder. Steve, welcome to the show. Please give us your prediction for the game.
Yeah, man. Hey, thanks for having me. I felt the same way in terms of enemy territory when I accepted the invite, but it's okay, right? And I didn't have to watch the replay to remember what happened last year. Right?
Nice.
So yeah, and so I kind of thought about the game last year, and the truth is, I thought we got ran completely out of the stadium last year, and Dan, we were there together, and I don't think the game was really that close at any point, right? And then Chubb broke that run, and other than the Derrick Henry debacle in the playoffs, I think that was probably the most impressive running against the Ravens defense that I had seen in a long time, and so I think for me, that's what has to change today. I heard a couple of the guests earlier. Quincy, I think, talked about it. We want Baker to throw it 35 times today, right? And so if that happens, that means we've contained the run. And if I think about that game too, I don't believe at the time Kareem Hunt was on the field for you yet.
No, he wasn't, not yet.
Right? So yeah, and so that's another factor that the Ravens have to go up against today. So we contain the run. We make Baker Mayfield beat us with his arm. I think we have one of the best secondaries in the league. So we just had the issue with Earl Thomas, and we lost him. That's a question mark, and Quincy talked about that. But even so, I think Baker Mayfield has to beat us with his arm today. I don't think he can do it. I don't think he can do it against our secondary. I agree. I think the game will be close. I'm going to go, I think, opposite of what Dan said. Dan said 24-21. I'm going to go 24-21. Ravens. It comes down to a field goal, and I'll take our kicker every day of the week.
Yeah, if I had Tucker, I would probably take that as well. That guy is frustratingly automatic, and it's like it was even when when the Ravens got Stover as the one guy, kind of the holdover from the original Browns that came to Baltimore. It was just very frustrating watching that and continuously watching the Raven. Every time that guy lines up to kick a ball, it's going in, and it's automatic points. And to be that confident that anywhere you get on one side of the field, you got a chance of getting 3 points no matter what. It's very frustrating as an opposing fan. So I think you guys are really lucky to have him.
Steve, what do you think about no fans? Was Quincy right? There's no fans going to be there?
There is no fans, Dan. For $35, we could have had a cutout of ourselves there, but there's no.
Oh my God.
In the stands today, and I thought about that. I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily an advantage, but it's definitely not a disadvantage for you all, right? It's a loud stadium. You talked about it, always is, and so. Yeah, no fans. I was curious, and maybe you all know this. Are we allowed to pump in crowd noise? I was watching some college games yesterday. They were pumping in some crowd noise.
Right, but not tailored to Baltimore, meaning they can make it really loud when we have the ball, and it has to be the same crowd noise that they're pumping into all the other games. So it's going to be consistent. I don't know if they can raise it up or not down, but I think it has to be consistent so it's fair to both teams.
Right. Yep. So, I think early on, there may be fans later in the season from what I'm hearing, right? But early on, I think being a road team may be an advantage, right? With not having any fans or limited capacity.
We hope to have fans on Thursday night when we play the Bengals in Cleveland. As many as were in Kansas City the other night, but they made a lot of noise.
A lot. Yeah.
For the few fans that were there. So hopefully that'll be to our advantage come Thursday night. But obviously we got to get past this one first.
That's right. And I'm hoping that you're looking ahead to Thursday night going into this.
No, I don't think we're looking ahead. I think our total focus is on The Ravens, because they're such a tough team.
And I really honestly think that knowing that we were just talking to Restano about this. This is the game that's going to set the tone for the AFC North. I mean, it's not the Steelers anymore. The Steelers are, I mean, they're going to put an 8-8 team together this year and excite nobody. But they're not going to play a factor. The Bengals are rebuilding. They're not going to play a factor just yet. I think in a couple years we'll see what happens with them. But I think the rivalry now, and for the next couple years, 3 or 4 years, within this certain window, within these players' careers, it's Ravens Browns. And I think that I was looking at the schedule because we don't get the Ravens again till December, like December 4th or something. And who knows what the situation's going to be COVID wise, right? And within the stadium in December. So this could be a really unfortunate thing for the Ravens because as you guys were at the game, and Steve, I mean, you're a season ticket holder, how loud. My dad was saying that he had to have his fingers in his ears. It was so ear-rippingly loud. So this is one of those things that it almost neutralizes the playing field to a degree, not having those fans there.
Yeah, agreed. And we were there, and it was right before Chubb broke that run. It was, I mean, it was as loud as it could have been, and I think, Dan, you said it earlier, you could have heard a pin drop afterwards, and you couldn't. At that point, I think we all knew that the game was over. That's right.
They leaving. It's not over yet.
Yeah.
And they had opportunities.
Wait, how many minutes? Steve? When were the fans leaving? Was it right after the Chubb run, or was it after the field goal?
I felt like right after Chubb broke that run, you started to see folks just file out down the stairs and out the exit.
There was 9 minutes. We were watching the game last night. There was 9 minutes left in the game, and I'm like, it was a 12-point game at that point, and the Ravens. If the Ravens score and then they turn the ball over, they could go in and win the game, and people were leaving.
You never felt, even though it was that close, you never felt like it was that close the whole game. Honestly, it felt like we were touchdowns behind, and we weren't in a position that we were going to be able to catch up. It really felt like we were far off.
Yeah, the Browns answered just about every time, including the Chubb run. Every time Baltimore started to gain momentum, started to do something, the Browns just stepped up and were able to neutralize it. They had the interception after the Chubb run. They kicked the field goal, and I think that's when you and I left, was when they kicked that field goal, and I think it was 5 minutes to go, and we said, let's beat the traffic. We got a long drive to go.
That's right. Yeah. I was hearing you talk earlier about Pittsburgh and Roethlisberger potentially not playing, and so I had not heard that he may not make the start tomorrow night.
Yeah, they said I was going on the ticker last night on the below on the NFL Network as we were watching the game, saying that he was held out of practice yesterday, and it's a coach's decision, and they believe that it's a elbow related arm injury. So I mean, I think. I'm not even sure why Roethlisberger bothered coming back this year. I mean, he doesn't have anything left to prove in the NFL. Right. His body is not there. If you look at him, he's not a gym guy either. I mean, he's just not going to do it. I honestly hope that he just doesn't get hurt. I think we're starting to see the very end of that generation of Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, Tom Brady. Peyton's already gone. And then you got probably Ben is the last guy in that bunch, and this is a transitionary period in the NFL. Then you got Baker Mayfield and Burrow and Lamar Jackson and Pat Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. I mean, you got these guys that are the next wave to come, right? So, how excited are you guys about Lamar coming back from that MVP season? Do you believe that he's going to advance and become a better passer, or is he going to continue the game?
That's the hope, right? And hopefully we get some of the questions answered today. I mean, if you think about it, did he take the next step in terms of passing? Nobody can question his ability to run the ball. I don't think anybody would. But does he step up to another level from a passer perspective? And not sure, right? And also, I know it wasn't necessarily his rookie year, but I would kind of consider it that, right? He came in the season before, midway through the season. So is there sort of a sophomore slump there with Lamar. So I'm curious about that. And then the other thing really to watch out for today, I think too, is Hollywood Brown. So he really did play most of the year with a foot injury.
Right.
And so he's coming in completely healthy. Excited about that. Excited about Ingram as well. I mean, Ingram went into the end of the year with a calf injury. He battled back from it, but he really wasn't himself even through the playoff game. And so he comes back fully healthy. There's a lot really to be excited about there. And I think there's question marks about Lamar in terms of his ability to grow as a passer.
Yeah, I think looking at the tale of the two franchises, the Browns have historically been terrible on opening day. The Ravens have been amazing on opening day. Going last year, what did you guys score, like 200 points against the Dolphins last year? And
yeah, 59, I think.
Oh my God! And then I mean, Harbaugh is just excellent at game planning, and you give him a whole off season to do it. I think the Ravens are a team that have to be respected, and I think that this is going to be a tough game either way. I think everybody's predicting it to be close. Nobody's predicting it. I don't think anybody can be really, intellectually honest if they're picking a blowout on either way, because these teams they're evenly matched. Both of them are somewhat finesse-based teams, and I think there's going to be a lot of points. It was interesting last night when we rewatched the game how close it was at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very close game at halftime, and then it opened. And I remember sitting there. I can't remember exactly what the score was. Like, was it like 12-9 or something like that? I mean, it wasn't. And then we were like, wow, there's going to be a lot of points in the second half, right? So it could start off like that again. But I think you're right. I think the two guys that I'm most afraid of on the Ravens are Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews. Those are the two guys. If we lock those guys down, I think Ingram's a good running back. I don't think he's an elite. He's not a Saquon level guy that you just have to game plan around completely. He's a guy that.
Well, I think we're in a transition period too now, right? With Ingram and J.K. Dobbins. Who, I mean, I think, like, to me, I think they stole him in the second round to get him in the second round. So I think it'll be a year of transition from Ingram to Dobbins and Dobbins for the future.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, and this is just going to be one of those interesting games. There's a lot of storylines going on with this. There's going to be a lot of drama that comes out of this game too, because if the Browns end up winning it, it's going to be it's almost going to feel like we won a playoff game, because we haven't won a first game in
Forever.
16 years. Right.
Yeah, I heard you say that earlier, 2004. I mean, that was an interesting stat. And I agree with you. I mean, it's week one and it's only one game, but wow, it's a big game to be a week one game.
Absolutely. Right? We are coming out of the cannon with a bang on both sides. I hope we both make it out healthy. No big injuries, nothing like that, because we didn't have the preseason. So we didn't have that many. Quincy was saying we didn't have that many padded practices. So I hope we all make it out healthy. And then obviously on this side of the camera, we're hoping that the Browns are victorious. But I think if I was putting the sports line out there, I probably would go against the Browns if I was betting millions and millions of dollars on this. But who knows?
Maybe not 7.5, but Yeah.
Speaking of bets, we got 2 bets in this morning. We put a Super Bowl bet in at online for $50, which will get us $3,500 if they go and win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So it's a 35-1. Mike said we should have put 1,000 in so we could win 35,000. I said, I don't feel that confident. It's a long way to get to the Super Bowl. But then again, we got 7.5 points today, so we put another $50 on 7.5 points. So
I don't blame you on that one.
Yeah,
7.5 seems like a lot.
Yeah, we'll.
Yeah.
So we can. It'll make that beer, if we lose, a little bit better if we can at least say we won by the point spread. But I'm hoping it's not a point spread issue at all. I hope we win both the game and the point spread.
Yeah, good. Well, hey guys, I appreciate being with you. And
Joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
I hope it's a great game. I hope it's a game, to your point, Mike, where we're injury free. And from my perspective, go Ravens.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Brownies.
Go Brown, guys. Thank you very much. We are going to be back on So the game kickoff in 45 minutes. We're going to be back on right after the game. Probably figure like 4:05, 4:10-ish is when we're going to be back live it'll be me and my dad talking about giving the post-game reaction. Hopefully we'll be 1-0 Cleveland Browns at that point. Sorry, Steve. But yeah, guys, thank you very much. We're also going to be doing a giveaway for Sabo. Sabo Apparel, which is one of our new t-shirt sponsors this year. Sabo is going to be giving us a t-shirt that we can give away for in the post-game show. So join us there. Set your reminder. Set your that alert button so when we go live, you guys can join us. I want to thank everybody. We got some of the old school guys in there. Chad, Jason Kimball. We got Old Hippie in here. B. Skrills. I know Gary Washington was there. Scrolling back through some of the chat, want to give some love out to everybody. Jason Stopar came back. Thank you, Jason, for being back here. Super facts, etc.
Yeah, we're just short of 4,000 subscribers, so hopefully, we'll get that extra across the goal line.
If you guys aren't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe right now and click that bell. Get us going, right?
Get us over 4,000.
Yeah, we're getting real close. Thank you guys very much. Again, t-shirt giveaway, post-game show. Go Browns.
Go Brownies.
And we will see you soon. Peace.